Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about the 2011 spy espionage film, Tailor Soldier Spy, and its Kino Lorber 4K Blu-ray. And this is actually one of my most requested videos to do here on the channel, so I was more than happy to finally oblige to it. And if you guys don't want to know anything about this movie, even though I won't be spoiling it, and you just want to know about the 4K Blu-ray, you guys can skip ahead to that portion of the show right now. But Tailor Soldier Spy was released in 2011. It is directed by Thomas Alfredson, who really hasn't directed too much since this movie came out, which is a surprise because he did a great job with this film. It is so well directed, even though a lot of the credit does go to Bridget O'Connor and Peter Strahan, who did write the screenplay for this movie based on the 1974 novel of the same name, which was done by John le Carré. And this isn't the first time that that novel was ever adapted. It was actually adapted into a 1979 BBC miniseries, which, from what I understand, was very well received, just like the book is. And not a lot of people who love the book or the miniseries love this movie because they feel like they didn't flesh it out enough. And that does make a lot of sense. If this movie came out in 2024, it definitely wouldn't be 2 hours and 7 minutes. This would definitely be about a 3.5 hour movie, and more than likely, it would go to like Hulu, Netflix, Apple TV. Honestly, this is the kind of show that ends up on Apple TV. But back in 2011, it was adapted into a 2 hour and 7 minute movie, and let me just tell you, it is a fantastic film, and it makes a lot of sense. Not only do you have great writers, a great director doing a fantastic job, but the cast for this movie, led by Gary Oldman, who is just an enigma in himself, one of the greatest actors of all time. He could overact his ass off with the best of them. Just look at Leon the Professional.
Bring me everyone. What do you mean everyone?
Everyone!
Air Force One, The Fifth Element. He could overact. He has no problem wearing prosthetics and makeup. Again, look at The Fifth Element. Look at The Darkest Hour that won him his only Academy Award. And then he can just play a very reserved actor. Look at The Dark Knight trilogy, or in this movie where he doesn't have too much dialogue. Because in this movie, before we get too far into Gary Oldman's amazing performance and the great way we shot this movie by Hoyt van Hoytema, this movie is a very simple movie on paper. We're just trying to find out who is the mole, who is the bad guy, who has somehow infected MI6. And this isn't MI6 from James Bond. These are real spies, people really involved in espionage and that entire world. And they're not, flashy. In fact, Gary Oldman's character, he is the opposite of James Bond. He keeps all his emotions inside like most of these people do. They're not going to show it because you know what? That's giving away information. You cannot let anybody know about anything going on in your personal life. And Gary Oldman knows this, and he knows he slipped up at one point in 1955 and revealed his love for his wife. And believe me, they are going to use that against him, and they hint at this whole wife storyline. At the very beginning, in the opening credits, we linger on a piece of mail that says Anne Smiley, who was George Smiley's wife in this movie, played by Gary Oldman, who is also Beggar Man. It's Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Beggar Man, and Poor Man. But these five people, the original head from the beginning of this movie believes that one of these five people is a spy giving information to the Soviet Union. And that's really what this movie is about. Simply on paper, is just figuring out who is the guy giving information to the Soviet Union. Who's the bad apple in this bunch? And that's what it's about, figuring it out. Even though the head of the MI6, who ends up passing away early in this movie, I don't think that's too much of a spoiler. And even though he has George Smiley, played by Gary Oldman, on that list, he doesn't really suspect him too much. And again, these guys are not showing emotion throughout this movie. They're keeping everything held inside. This cast, though, is just stacked up and down. A fantastic Mark Strong performance in this movie. If Gary Oldman didn't give a world-class performance, I think a lot of us would be talking about Mark Strong in this movie. It's also at the very beginning of Tom Hardy and Benjamin Cumberbatch. These guys hadn't really taken off into what they are today, two of the greatest working actors. No, this is them right at the beginning of that. Tom Hardy is just 1 year removed from Inception. Benjamin Cumberbatch is a few years removed from, really taking off. So they perform small roles in this movie, but fantastically. There is not a bad performance in this movie, no matter how big or small the role is. And again, it's not a flashy James Bond type of movie. They don't even refer to MI6 as like the agency or anything. They call it the circus, and these just feel like regular working class, lonely slobs, who just don't have it all together, but yet they're really good at this one thing, and it really controls their entire life. You also get a great Toby Jones performance in this movie, who I always love seeing pop up in movies. He always gives great performances, and I believe this came out the same year as Captain America, the First Avenger, so he was really kind of on top of the world. He's always been a great character actor, but just phenomenal performances throughout. And then again, this movie was shot by Hoyt van Hoytema, the guy who just won the Academy Award for Oppenheimer. He's worked with Christopher Nolan on Interstellar, so you just know this guy knows how to shoot a movie, and he shot the shit out of this movie. It looks absolutely gorgeous. You know, we get those gray clouds in Britain, you know, a lot of the rain sequences. It all just feels natural. This feels like an early 1970s film, and that's because you got a guy behind the camera who knows what he's doing, and then the incredible production design. This movie does not feel like a movie that came out in 2011, despite, you know, obviously it did, but the way it's shot and the way it looks and all the costume design, no, it feels like an early 1970s spy thriller, and it's just so well done. Now, this isn't a movie that's going to be loved by everybody. You know, it's really challenging your intelligence. It rewards you on rewatches. You know, if you were going into this movie and you're looking for like an action thriller, this is not that movie. There is very little action in it, and it's all the better for it. Everything is delivered through dialogue, and yet you're still on the edge of your seat, and that's how you know it's a very well constructed movie, very well written, very well acted, very well shot, and it also sounds fantastic. There really isn't too many flaws in this movie, and it's really hard for me to poke holes in it. It's just a fantastic, well done movie that I absolutely love, and if you're a fan of spy thrillers, definitely check this one out, and I promise you, you will not be disappointed, and again, it will reward you on rewatch. And if you do want to check this movie out, maybe you want to check out this Kino Lorber 4K Blu-ray that we're going to talk about right now. Well, here it is, Tailor Soldier Spy on 4K Blu-ray, courtesy of Kino Lorber. I actually bought this in their recent 50% off sale, and man, I feel like I got a steal with this one. And one of the production companies for this movie who actually helped finance making this film was Studio Canal. So, of course, Studio Canal did the UK 4K Blu-ray release and all the Region B 4K Blu-ray releases. And the scan that's on here is that Studio Canal scan that was released over there. And Studio Canal, as they usually do, did a fantastic job on this 4K Blu-ray transfer. I mean, my God, it looks absolutely incredible. And my God, I know I'm starting off with the visuals, but the visuals are just amazing on this 4K Blu-ray. I was pretty much blown away by it. You know, it's not a recent release. In fact, Kino Lorber on their website, this was one of the lowest priced 4K Blu-rays. This and Monster Squad were the ones you could get for the cheapest. And that's really a surprise because from the visual standpoint, it is amazing. And maybe that's just because Studio Canal had released this earlier. And, you know, it's the same exact transfer. But still, if you were in the United States waiting for a 4K Blu-ray release of Tailor Soldier Spy, from a visual standpoint, they knocked it out of the park with this one. It's of course got HDR10 and Dolby Vision. Of course, the source material is also in great shape. It's a recently released film, shot with modern cameras at the time, and it just looks phenomenal. It looks very cool. I mean, the way the light sources are, how you could find them, and even when you compare it to the Blu-ray that's packed in here, it just looks amazing. It's even a jump from that Blu-ray to the 4K Blu-ray, but the source material is just so good that even that Blu-ray is just so well done. And you know, it's something we talk about with 4K Blu-rays. It's going to brighten it up. You're going to hit those deeper blacks. And the way they shot this movie, it all just looks great. It's very muted colors, very 1970s colors. We're going to get that mustard yellow, you know, that pea green, all that stuff that's very reminiscent of the time. You know, it could be a very ugly looking movie, but it's not. It's just that well shot. And then it transfers so well to the 4K Blu-ray. I have almost no complaints about the visuals. And then when we come inside to the packaging, now that Studio Canal release is obviously a little bit better because this is just your standard Kino Lorber packaging. So, you know, if you've gotten anything from Kino Lorber, they're all going to look like this. So when you come underneath, same box work underneath. Sometimes they'll have reversible box art. Not the case here. And then when you come inside, you'll get the Blu-ray and the 4K Blu-ray. And just like most movies, all of your extras are going to be on that Blu-ray. And they pad it. It's Kino Lorber, so you got a ton of trailers for some of their other releases, such as Out of Sight. And then everything that was transferred as far as extras go were a little bit disappointing because they're kind of in rough shape. And it's weird because the movie's only from 2011. Everything looks like it was taken from a junket and then separated into featurettes. So the interviews just kind of feel like everybody's like forced there to talk except for like Tom Hardy. And also the quality of these extras is really, really low. I'm not too sure if Studio Canal got something better, but all the extras that are on here are, you know, they're good, but they're very disappointing. And if I'm being honest, from a visual standpoint, they just look, I don't know, it looks like the transfer over to the disc was done pretty poorly, if I'm being honest. And it's just a bunch of interviews that if you would edit it together would have been about like 20 minutes. And again, all those trailers, there is some deleted scenes, but really nothing that, I don't know, nothing for you to really sink your teeth into. So I was kind of disappointed by the extras. And again, if we're talking about Kino Lorber, they're not going to really fund new extras. They're really at the mercy of what's already been released. That's just not what they do. And it's another one of those releases here, so you don't really get too many extras, and what you do get, I just want to make that list look like there's more than there actually is. This is something I've seen from Kino Lorber in the past. This and packaging, you know, that's really where they cut corners, but where they don't ever cut corners. And again, you know, the visuals and the audio, this stuff was all done by Studio Canal, so none of the stuff that's here is really done by them. They just really packaged it all together for United States, and I can appreciate that, but you could just tell that everything that was done, they were just at the mercy of who did it. And Studio Canal did a great job with those visuals, but they also did a great job with the audio. You get a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1, and I was surprised as hell at how well this was mixed. There's a certain sequence where somebody has headphones on, and they'll have certain audio coming out of the one front channel, and then they'll have some audio coming out of the rear channel, and I would hear it from my left ear. It was only coming out of one of my rear speakers. I thought that was amazing audio design. I don't know why more movies don't do this, but again, just besides that one sequence, everything else, the score itself is all coming in phenomenally. It's mixed very well. You can set your volume at whatever you want. Everything was done almost perfectly with this DTS HD Master Audio track. And, you know, it's a dialogue heavy film. A lot of the heavy lifting for the track is done by, you know, the score and the dialogue. But, you know, they did find some creative ways to make good use of the mix, and I really did appreciate that, because they would have been forgiven if they took the lazy route like a lot of major studios do, but they really didn't. They really did put a lot of effort into this 4K Blu-ray, and I love it. I mean, I'm very happy with it. I also really love the film, so of course I'm very happy with the visuals and the audio. Yes, the packaging and the extras are a little bit disappointing, but from a visual standpoint and from an audio standpoint, which is what most people come to 4K Blu-ray for, is to see that visual and audio jump and just see what HDR or Dolby Vision can do. Well, I can tell you right now, this is a great example of what HDR10, Dolby Vision, and a great DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 can do for your system. It's definitely worth your time and money. I believe I got this for like 17 bucks, and I feel like I stole it because I'm so happy with it. It's one I will be revisiting every couple of years. I wouldn't say that Tailor Soldier Spy is an every year film, but you know, like every 2 or 3 years when you're really in the mood for a good spy thriller without a lot of action, you just want to sit there and sink your teeth into something that's really well done and just so intelligent, this is the movie for you. So if you've never seen Tailor Soldier Spy, I could definitely recommend this 4K Blu-ray. And what would I give it on a score of 1 to 10? Well, I have to take some points off for the standard Kino Lorber packaging, and as an extras junkie, I was pretty disappointed with it. But the visuals and audio are enough for me to highly recommend this one, and I would still give this 4K Blu-ray a pretty damn solid 8 out of 10. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it here for me on another episode of Let's Talk. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on, share this video if you could. We also have channel memberships, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, or even possibly a producer for the channel, like John Doe Juggalo, Jason Martin, and Mr. Smelly Potato, you can do that. You can also become a channel director like Frank from Frank's Media Reviews if you want to find out the differences in all of those channel perks. But really the big thing is it really does help this channel to keep growing, and I can keep giving you guys 4K Blu-ray reviews. That is my ultimate goal, to review as many movies here on the channel for you guys as possible, and that all really comes down to you guys. I really do appreciate all the support, and if you got no money to throw our way, don't worry about it at all. We just appreciate you checking out the video, and all we really hope is that you enjoyed it. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.